I will call the meeting to order. Would you please stand for the pledge of allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everyone. We've got a full house. Pretty full agenda. The heat's finally broke a little bit. It's pretty comfortable outside, so we'll get started. First thing we have is 2 public hearings. One will be on the county budget. And what we'll do is I'll call the county hearing to order and see if there's any public comments. If not, then we'll close that hearing down, and then final approval of the budget will be in our October 8th meeting. And then we have one on the solid waste budget, and we'll do that second and get those out of the way. So now I will call the Whitley County budget hearing to order. Are there any comments, questions from the public? Okay. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. And October 8th, we will do probably the final approval of the 2025 budget. Next, I will call the solid waste budget hearing to order. Any questions, comments on the solid waste budget? And I don't know when you do final approval on yours, or same time. It'll be October 8th.
For solid waste,
Yes.
we've done a final approval. We've submitted it to you guys
Right.
for the final approval.
But
Or
we'll-
to this guy.
Yeah, we'll do
You
that.
guys, I'm one of us. What do you guys?
Yeah,
Today,
we'll do that October 8th also.
right, but it's been approved by the solid waste.
Any questions? Okay, I will close that hearing also. We'll be on October 8th on those issues. Next on the agenda, Dale and Shannon Strategies.
Yeah, good morning. We've got what I think is a pretty comprehensive presentation today. And today, we're not making an ask. We told you a couple of council meetings ago that we would introduce an option, but also we'll have Zach kind of give a brief update where the work Sand Strategies is doing and the task force. And then we've got a guest from Lakeland Internet to talk about what they're looking at in the county. I've got a full presentation, electronic copy that I'll give you, but for now, I'm just going to hand a few pages. Again, this is informational today, and we're not making an ask, but we will be making an ask probably next meeting. So Zach.
Good morning, Council. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to come before you guys this morning. So I know last time I came before you guys, we were talking about how we've been in conversations with also multiple providers, but one provider in particular, Lakeland Internet. I know Commissioner Basinger and a group of us went up to DeKalb County a couple months ago and saw the Tarana technology for ourselves up in Butler, Indiana, and seeing what, and then kind of exploring what that would look like here. So eventually here, I will have Mark Filer with Lakeland come up and just give you guys an overview of Lakeland, who they are, their story, and then what a countywide solution using the Tarana technology looks like in Whitley County here. Also, it's in continued conversations as well as with Surf Internet and Comcast and others as we look into the BEAD program. September 4th actually was supposed to be the day that the BEAD eligibility came out. The state has delayed that a couple of weeks now. So still looking for that BEAD program to ultimately be rolled out here the next couple of weeks and seeing what those eligible addresses are in those unserved and underserved areas that are still left in the county. But with that, I'm gonna have Mark come up, and then unless you guys have any questions for me now, I'm then happy to come back up again after Mark concludes his presentation.
For you in the audience, this is to continue to try to bring internet to everyone in the county, so continued project. Go ahead, Mark.
Good morning, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be here again. I'm not someone who will just read from the slides, but I will hit some high points and so that I'm just here to answer questions if there are any. So a little bit about Lakeland Internet. Chuck Sorak started the company 9-10 years ago. He had lack of great internet up in Steuben County. They started growing, technology advanced. They brought me on about 6 years ago. We continued growing the company. We're around 3,000 customers right now. We're looking for new territory, new communities to help because it is a disparity in America. There are a lot of people that are not connected, cannot get connected. I appreciate the grant funding coming out from BEAD and IIJA. As I've always been, as I've tried to be a good steward of any funds that are given to me. Tarana technology came out about 6 years ago. We were kind of an early adopter. We've slowly been growing it in areas that need it, right? So we were using a cheaper equipment, cheaper technology. I realized that there's only so much that stuff can do. Tarana is it's expensive, but what it can do blows me away. I was an RF engineer for 22 years at AT&T. And when I started hearing about this, I'm like, I gotta try something. So we got it about 4 years ago, internet, and it blows me away. What it can do, it almost seems like magic to me as an RF engineer. And I can go into some technical details if you want. So Lakeland has continued to grow. After building the Pearl downtown Fort Wayne, we'll be the exclusive internet provider there. We have fiber in Leo, we have fiber in Hamilton, we have fiber in Angola, Lake James, Crooked Lake. So I'm looking for the best tool for the job in the areas where we're trying to serve. I know that Northeast Indiana has a significant problem in rural communities because most coming from AT&T, I understand that the budget is typically the driver. Anytime there's funding, it gets funneled to the high population areas. And that's why there's a disparity in Indiana is because that money will go to the big towns. It'll end up in Indianapolis. It'll end up in Fort Wayne. It'll end up in South Bend. So this Tarana technology has an ability to envelop the county with coverage with a couple sites, right? So think of it as a big umbrella, right? When you build fiber, you're on the street, you're on specific places. When you go wireless, it creates an umbrella kind of over a large area. In the case study here, we've got our Butler Tower. We're at a 270-foot elevation there. I've got a customer 9 miles away in Peugeot, Indiana, pulling 120 meg down and 40 meg up. That's very usable internet. I didn't have high-speed internet until about 7 years ago when my kids got old enough to need it. I had 100 meg and it was perfect for everything we did. COVID only made the lack of speed in the rural areas even more apparent. You have people that can't take the classes. You have people that can't do Zoom meetings in the rural areas. So this Tarana is amazing. I'll kind of forward through some of its technical capacities. In its best case scenario, hopefully the color slides came out. And I'm going to page on 10 or 11 there. It kind of shows 9, 10, and 11. My turn was going out of so hopefully you get this. Yes, sir, that's the one. So the way it's based on is kind of a signal basis and a noise basis. If you're in that red area, you're going to get 500 to 600 meg down. To me, that is amazing. I started out in cellular when I was selling 30 minutes for $30 a month. To understand what wireless technology can do is amazing. So anything kind of in that blue, green area, you're getting a minimum of 100 meg. Now this is from Tarana. I had them do the engineering analysis. When Zach approached me and said, hey, Whitley County might need some help in the rural areas, I looked at existing towers. That means it's an SBA, a Crown Castle, one of the commercial towers where I can get up 200, 240 feet on the tower. And then I looked at proximity to fiber, because yes, it's wireless, but I have to take those wireless connections back to the internet somewhere. So we will bring fiber to those towers, and then we can cover up to 1,000 people per tower. And if there's a specific tower that grows more, all I gotta do is add another node to the tower. That's another 250 people to cover. So, I'll pause at that point because that was a lot, just kind of to dump on you. So if there are questions about how that technology works, I'd love to go into that when it comes to stuff like that. But they do noise cancellation, and the way that works is on the tower, there are 32 actual transmitters and receivers in each antenna. And then on the home, it's almost like a server. It's an $800 unit that goes on the side of the house, and it's got 16 transmitting receivers. So the way it benefits a non-line of sight is that, you know, if you got a branch or a tree or something coming across what that signal would be coming to your home, it can take those 32 signals from the tower, find the best ones, reassemble that message so that your actual payload, what you're trying to do in the internet, is put together. Instead of 1 or 2 paths like traditional wireless, you have up to 16 on the home and 32 coming from the tower. And if it gets interference from somewhere, just turns that transmitter off and ignores it. So it has, again, as an RF engineer, it blows me away that what it can do. Now, any questions?
What's the installation cost for the homeowner?
So 6 months a year, we run free installation. I do not charge the homeowner for that $800 unit. I look at that as something that my company covers, and over the time of a customer will keep it. Typically, it's around $49, but I am evaluating whether we should adjust, depending on.
You mean monthly cost, $149?
No. We have plans starting at $49.95, and they go up to $129.95. That $49.95 plan would be a 50 meg plan, which again, more than usable for most houses out there, including multiple homes, multiple users and TVs. So it can go up to 250, 500 meg, depending on how great your signal is. The way that process works is if we would deploy a network, customers interested, we come out, we do a site survey, we would actually make sure and verify before we charge the customer anything that we can give you what we are telling we can give you. I don't believe in selling somebody, you know, a 100 meg plan and then we're getting 25. That's not right to me. I don't believe that's good
How
business.
often does that happen?
Rarely, now that we've deployed Tarana, it has been a revolutionary for us because it used to be maybe we'd go out for a service call or two, maybe storm comes through and blows a dish or something. All of that stuff's going on. Now we still have occasional service calls, but it's like squirrel chewed my cable or my dog ate this or that. My router got reset. We go out and take care of that. We don't charge like MediaCom does for service calls and things like that. It's a great thing about working for Chuck is that we're here for the community. We believe in over-the-top customer service. He was a Boy Scout. I was a Boy Scout. He believes in doing the right thing. And a lot of times we'll bend over backwards where another carrier wouldn't do something.
One of your first statements when you opened is that you said you need new communities to help.
Sure. So I appreciate CN Strategies. I got involved with them in DeKalb County. I presented what Tarana can do, and I looked to help in the community. I said, Zach, where else can we help? He was, well, what can you do for Whitley County? We had some commissioners come up and we showed them. He said, I think we're going to have a need in some of the rural areas. He asked me to look at it. So when I say I want to be involved in communities and I want to know where I can help in communities, it doesn't just stop if we get this network in place. If this network happens and then there's trouble areas, I'm going to come in and figure out where we can help, where we can. It's just because the network's done doesn't mean it's done growing. Doesn't mean the community's done growing. Doesn't mean that there might be new developments and things that we need to take into account. Because it matters to me what we're doing in the community greater than what business.
Do you need more users at this point to support your financial base to do what you're doing?
We are a profitable company now. I have a vision of continuing to connect northeastern Indiana. Where it'll stop. I think Chuck has that. Chuck and my board have that in mind, but they have not told me to stop doing that. So I'm going to go where I can make a difference in the communities where I'm.
You said this model is based on 7 towers,
Correct.
so that's like 7,000 service accounts.
That is correct.
How does that cover all of Whitley County? I mean, you just set this up as that's where the towers will go, but you'll add more, what you call nodes
Correct. Correct.
to it to service more people off those 7 towers.
So this is initial plan. When I look at kind of a basic feasibility study, I think there's 15, 16,000 homes in Whitley County. I would love to tell you that I expect to take 15% of the addresses, but quite simply, I plan for 20 to 30% take. So 15,000 homes, I don't believe that everyone's going to call me and say, hey, I want your service. That would be a good problem to have. I do all of my engineering on 20 to 30% take rate. So 15,000 homes, my plan is 7,000. If we need more, I will absolutely.
So the 7 towers are just strategically placed to get the best coverage for Whitley County.
Correct, correct. And I focused on the rural areas. I do have a relationship with Surf Broadband. I also, recent month or so, he and I have started some meetings. This plan could change a little bit just because we're working on a relationship where it could be mutually beneficial both to Whitley County, some other counties we're working on. So unlike other carriers, I like working with my competition because if it's not for the county, I don't want you guys to spend twice to do something. It makes sense to find some carriers that will work together for a solution for the county that's the
Council, just to add on that too, when I talked to Parkview, I said, hey, I think a large part, the city of Columbia City is covered. So like really trying to focus on those areas that have no coverage. So it's like, kind of, we're talking about with the beat program coming out in the next couple of weeks, we'll really know where those holes are based on data that the providers are supposed to submit to the feds. And then also some of the speed testing that we did over the past, months. But I mean, that's really where we kind of focus in on, is making sure we're serving what's not served in. There's certain areas that are already serving. We don't need to focus on that areas that sort of has coverage.
No, I understand that by looking at the map, but it looks like the towers, the way you're placing them at, is going to cover all those areas regardless. So thank you for that.
If your cell phone doesn't work in your area, will this work in your area?
It does not provide mobile coverage, but if you are connected to the internet at home and you have Wi-Fi on, it will work in your home for sure.
What's your working relationship with Surf and Mercury?
I don't have a relationship with Mercury. We do buy a direct internet connection from Surf currently. And when I got involved 6 years ago, I started working with Gene. I'm all about relationship. If I'm doing a lot of business with somebody, I want to be. So Gene and I meet a couple times a year. It's been a year or two since I actually got to sit down with him. I met him out in Denver about 2 months ago. And I'm like, Gene, you're 45 minutes away from me. Why do I have to come to Denver to meet? So then we picked up our meetings again, and we started just discussing and sharing market knowledge in different areas and figuring out how we can best serve the community. It's a good relationship.
Are you still looking for towers, or you think you got pretty well covered?
I think I've got it nailed down. With this plan, my only concern is I've never gone on an NDOT tower, and one of these towers is an NDOT. So that's something I've got to understand how to get into that relationship with them and establish a leasing agreement. So
But a private tower that's 150 foot tall.
if it's in a location that would benefit this, I would absolutely evaluate. I typically go after the commercial, the big tower companies, because we have relationships and my climbers are certified climbers. Also, if it's an existing vertical asset and you hypothetically tell me to go tomorrow, I would start agreements and we could probably have this network up in 6 months.
Mark, on this page,
Yes, sir.
projected needs of funding, bottom point that.
So when I presented it to my board, I let them know that there are ARPA funds, there are BEAD funds coming down. And typically I try to look for about a 20 to 25% match when I'm going into a community. Doesn't mean it needs to happen. I think I also have a slide in here that says, we're kind of at the step that I need to actually spend some money, talk to the tower companies, see what it'll take, see if they're structurally able to have stuff mounted on them. All of them have available elevations listed available, but sometimes a tower might be $50,000 in modifications before I can put any more hardware on it. I don't know that until I spend some money, number one, to do some fiber feasibility studies to build from the northern RMC ring to these towers. Some of them may have facilities available that I can lease. Most of the time, we have to build fiber to them and get them better service. So this is a rough estimate. For me to take the next step is spending some actual money, reaching out to the tower companies, reaching out to potentially some other fiber providers and say, hey, I'm going to pay you. What is it going to cost me to actually get fiber here? I'm going to pay you. What is it actually going to cost for me to deploy equipment at 270 feet? So there's some actual costs that are involved. I haven't pulled that trigger yet. So that would, I overestimate on this budget a little bit. So that would probably bring numbers down if we spend a little bit of money to truly do in-depth engineering the plan. So it's not a direct ask. It's me looking at the checkbook and saying, okay, what do I want to do? Let's figure out where things work, and then just bringing it to you guys and starting a discussion.
With the, I don't know how to word it, with the planning and process for this and the items that you don't have solid yet, where you have to make those connections. If one of those drops, does that push everything out?
No, there are additional tower locations that I could potentially move to. This isn't a best case scenario. This is, I'm trying to cover the county as great as possible. So if one does drop out or I don't get that in-depth tower, I'm not opposed to building a tower, but that's significantly more expensive. But I could also transition that tower over somewhere else with a potential 9-mile radius footprint. There's a little bit of leeway in what I can do with one of these towers.
On page 10, do I read that right? There's all but 200 addresses will be covered.
That is correct.
So what's the step for?
So what I did there is I took my plan, said, hey, Tarana, can you run your engineering analysis? I took the last round of known addresses that needed funding. And what happens is if you look at that page 12 RF coverage map, I call it, there are a little bit of holes. Now, I can absolutely tell you that Tarana typically serves greater than what it indicates.
Right.
But I have to go off the engineering analysis to understand. And there's absolutely no reason that if 10 or 15 of those were in the same area, I can use 150-foot residential tower as a repeater and rebroadcast a signal to get into those neighborhoods. Okay. Right? Again, just an initial study, trying to get as much coverage as I can for the underserved and unserved areas.
Okay, thank you.
Is this a project that would be still considered if you didn't contribute any funds?
It's about an $11 million project in total. I would probably push for it, but I don't know if it's a project that
Would Whitley County in any way become a shareholder for the commitment of these dollars that they put towards the project?
Not a shareholder, but if there was, certainly I'm open to ideas if you have some way to share, I don't know, I'd have to float that to the board and see what they take or what they'd be interested in. Again, this is what I think Lakeland can do. I am absolutely open to continuing the conversation if there's an interest or there's some way to work through that. We want to help in the community for sure.
So Zach, any funding to assist us?
Yeah, so what we're gonna be doing is like here the next 2 weeks, and it's supposed to be done today, so the report is when the VW building was supposed to come out, so that's gonna be broken up into 3 tranches. If you guys remember, the first tranche is gonna be for traditionally just fiber solution, and the second is gonna be a combination of fiber and fixed. The last is gonna be essentially a blanketed fixed wireless solution. I don't know if it's gonna be like a technology, or a big Tarana solution or not. It just kind of depends on what is kind of finally left throughout the state of Indiana and what dollars are left. So I mean, there's a bucket of $868 million, between working with Comcast, Surf, and Barb. We'll see what we can try to leverage out of working with these providers. In some communities, just based on what the eligibility is going to come out, I think it's more sense just to do a direct partnership with, say, a provider, just because it also has additional federal regulation costs that increases the cost of some of these programs to make the grants work. So, I mean, really the next steps is to, like I said, one thing I've been super proud of Mark and Surf and their team is the collaboration I have. I do not have that collaboration sometimes with other providers in other communities. And so ideally it's been kind of challenge them a little bit. So say, service has really been building out the southwest part of the county. We got quite a bit of ICP addresses awarded the last time. And so say, maybe they totally just serve the southwest part of the county. Maybe Lakeland doesn't need to go there. Maybe we focus on the other holes on the other parts of the county where we just use more. So I mean, what he presented today is not something we have to maybe fully move forward on all those towers. Maybe it's a combination. Like I said, they're also putting their heads together on maybe what it looks like for them just to partner on something like this, saying that, hey, sir, if you serve as much of the county that's economically feasible with fiber, and then having Mark come in and kind of fill in those holes there. That would be the best case scenario. But that way they're coming with you with one request to serve the whole county. And the one thing I'll kind of leave on too is the reason why the state, federal government, local government is subsidizing a lot of these builds is because these are areas, if you remember, that there's no return on investment for these providers. I mean, literally, even if they build it, even with the subsidy, they're almost breaking even in a lot of these areas. So that's just one thing. As far as justifying to the taxpayer why we're doing this, is because these are areas where there's currently no ROI. So we're trying to encourage investment in those areas. Like I said, no requests today. I know Mark would be happy to make himself available, offline too, and continue kind of working together to see what maybe a possible partnership with Surf and Lakeland looks like, and maybe we can invite time next council meetings, we can come back and have a little bit more refined possible requests, and by that time too, to be eligibility. As well. So.
Other questions?
Thank you guys again very much.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you next
Don't
month.
be afraid to reach out to me if you have questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't be afraid to shoot me the tough questions. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, Churubusco Library and Town Representatives, informal approval of library bond.
Good morning, everyone. You can come on up to Rachel. My name is Madeline Sade Bartle. I know most of you guys. I am the clerk treasurer and council chief of staff for the town of Churubusco. This is Rachel Ironman. She is our director for the Churubusco Public Library. And we are here to present to you the preliminary design for the Churubusco Civic Center and Churubusco Public Library. So just to give you guys an overview, the PNC, the former PNC building at 102 North Line Street was recently purchased by a not-for-profit that the town coordinated and began, called the Churubusco Community Coalition. It is a 1.63 acre lot in the middle of town at the corner of 205 and 33. And on that 1.63 acre lot, there is a 13,800 square foot building that PNC used to be located in. We have been using that lot for many community events, the Churubusco Block Party, the Fine Arts Festival that the library puts on. We've had car shows, and we've been doing that since before PNC even moved out. So it's a great place, a great location for us to have many different events and be within walking distance. You want to give the overview of the Churubusco Public Library?
We were established in 1914. We merged with Smith Township in 1978, so we serve all of Smith Township. In 2020, the population of Smith Township was 5,234. We have 4,184 card holders at the moment. We added 161 new patrons in 2023, and we're on track to add at least that many this year. In 2023, we had 16,000 checkouts, and that does include circulation of books, magazines, movies, TV shows, music CDs, audiobooks, board games, activity kits, puzzles, hotspots, ebooks, laptops, and many more things. That's just a sampling. The library building is small and it has no private rooms. However, currently it is used for programming that the library does. We do after school programming for kids. We have children's team and adult book clubs. We have board game nights. For the summer reading program, we had over 100 kids come to a single program this year. Tutoring is also offered. People use the library for supplies visits, social workers and skills coaches, homeschooling, virtual meetings, virtual doctors meetings. Probably know more about some doctors, some medical information than I need to know. Meetings with lawyers, it's a safe space for kids to come after school or during the summer. People use our computers and Wi-Fi. We have job seekers, we have people who don't have internet at home to come and check their email or fill out applications for jobs or social work. We have students who use it for homework. We have people who come in print shipping labels because we're all shipping things these days. We have people who come in and use computers for tax preparation. We do have hotspots and laptops available to borrow as well for people who want to be able to take their computer work home. Just heard a presentation about trying to get internet to more people. In the meantime, hotspots. You asked about whether or not if your cell phone worked at your home, but unfortunately our hotspots, if your cell phone doesn't work, your hotspot probably won't. So we have people coming in with the printer and copier and fax machine a lot. It is probably one of the only, if not the only, public copier and fax in the community. There are lots of limits for the current building. It was built in 1978, renovated in 1999, and it desperately needs a new roof.
Desperately, like right now, if it's raining, she's got curtains up on many of the shelves, so.
It's, we've reached the limit of what we can do to patch it, and we do need to get that fixed, use new carpet. But
even if they were to make these renovations, though, they would still need a bond to take it out, just based upon the current tax rates.
any renovations that we do, the current building would be a bond. The size of the library does limit the number of programs and types of programs we can offer. We have 150 kids for the summer reading program. It really impacted the rest of the community being able to use the library.
I didn't even know you could get 150 people in there. So honestly,
there are no private meeting spaces, so those meetings with lawyers and doctors and just business meetings there's a semi-private table, but if you talk too loud, then you can probably hear what's going on from the other side of the library. So there are issues with the current building.
So, so expansion has been talked about for many, many years. I've been in office since 2012. They were talking about expanding the library before I even was in office. It was included in our 2014 comprehensive plan for the town, that we had, a lot of Smith Township residents on our steering committee for that comp plan. And it was in our 2017 Stellar Communities application and Stellar Communities plan. So we've been talking about this for a long time and just hadn't had a space until 2020 when PNC moved out. So we've been actively talking about this particular project and this particular partnership since 2020. I was very involved with trying to get the building donated to us. That's why we started the not-for-profit to begin with. PNC was not on board with that. So $400,000 that we were intending to spend on renovations was then spent on purchasing a building. And since 2020, I personally have been talking to numerous people. I've talked to the chamber, 2 Rotary clubs, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts. I was in 7th and 8th grade English classrooms presenting because they were doing a community programs project. Churubusco Main Street, the Smith Green Community School Board. We've been very transparent in what our plans were for this building, what the costs associated would be, and how they would be funding these costs. So it's been out in the open for 4 years now. We've gotten all these letters of support from community members. So it's something that I believe that the town really wants, the Smith Township really wants, and it could really benefit our community.
Certainly, we would be able to offer more programs, a wider variety of programs to reach more people. There's more space for collaboration. There's more space just for people to sit and be in the library. There's private meeting and study rooms, programming space, so our programs wouldn't impact other patrons. And one of my favorites, restrooms that are part of the heating and cooling system. So
I don't know if we can float that one. Just kidding. Yeah, the preliminary layout, the library would take over the top floor of the PNC building, which is about 6,500 square feet. So it would double the library size. There would be several private study rooms that people could meet in for tutoring or supervised visits or those doctors and lawyers calls. Also a smaller conference room that is already existing. We are just going to knock out a couple walls to make that a little bit bigger, but that they would have full access to. And then the bottom floor would be the town's portion of this project. It would be the Churubusco Civic Center. So with that bottom floor, we would have a very large meeting space that could actually be divided into 2 rooms. Right now, the town of Churubusco only has really 1 meeting space, and that would be the Churubusco Park Scout Building. And it's served us very well for the past 60 years, but it is, and I'm not exaggerating, booked every single night of the week and every single weekend. We've got rentals on the books for 2026 already. So having another place for people to meet in Churubusco is very, very important to us. We'll also have a training kitchen in this building that will be available for cooking classes, for community meals, and other things, and it will be handicap accessible. So the parking lot area is right now it's a lawless parking lot is what I call it. I actually park in that parking lot and get hit almost every single day of whenever I go to work. So our first preliminary plan is phase 1, and we will try to limit the number of people trying to cut through from 205 to 33, and by putting some barriers and some traffic flow implements in there. So, but we anticipate using this parking lot again, as we have for years, for those community events and to bring people together to the downtown. We have already been very successful in getting some partnerships with local organizations. Obviously, the town of Churubusco and Churubusco Public Library are the primary partners. But we have also partnered with the Churubusco Chamber of Commerce, Churubusco Rotary, Main Street Churubusco. They will be using our meeting rooms for their meetings and putting on some entrepreneurship classes, adult education classes, that sort of thing. And we've also garnered a partnership with the Churubusco Suicide Awareness and Prevention Task Force, which I'm very happy that we've been able to partner with them. There are private meeting spaces downstairs in the Civic Center portion, and those private offices are going to serve for one-on-one counseling. They will also have office hours that they will be able to be a community resource center. So if people need help applying for Social Security or Medicare, or looking for, daycare options, that sort of thing, there will actually be office hours with a certified social worker there, because they do have somebody associated with their group that is a certified social worker. And then obviously there will be a large meeting space for their presentations and mental health support groups. It's going to benefit Whitley County in a number of ways. Not only Smith Township, but all of Whitley County. Downtown revitalization of a vacant building. The building's been empty since May of 2020, and it's starting to look as if it has been vacant since 2020, just because we have not been able to do anything with it as we're waiting on bond issuance. Development of organized youth recreation programs is definitely something that is top priority with the library, and getting more of those programs for the youth implemented. It'll also create a senior space. We've got a very active Turtletown senior group that currently meets in the Heroes restaurant, and I actually met with them earlier this week, and they're very excited about the possibility of having their own space and a place where they can actually store things in the building and not have to transport them via a suitcase every week. So it also supports the advancement of education and training for a qualified workforce. We will be connecting residents to not-for-profit resources, and it just provides that general central space for our community. So what we are asking from council today, Indiana code requires a library before it can move to bond issuance to get approval from the county fiscal body. Just FYI, the town is already at our bonding capacity. We actually use the bond proceeds to help with purchasing the building. So the library, for their portion of this project, is going to need to seek a bond. So that's why we are here today. Just so you know, there is no impact to the county itself, no tax impact to anyone other than residents of Smith Township. As I said, we've collected hundreds of letters of support. This expansion's been identified in numerous community plans that had members from all over Smith Township on those steering committees. And the library can't afford to do really much of anything without a bond, even fixing their current building. And the town cannot afford the Civic Center without the library in there. It's definitely a all or nothing project at this point in time.
Definitely to a mutual benefit.
Yes. So the tax impact, and we've got Lisa from Baker Tilly and Kristen from Ice Miller, who are our fiscal and our bond counsel, fiscal advisor and bond counsel. They are also here, and I think they're going to speak a little bit more in depth to this. But right now, the library has the lowest taxing rate of any library in the county. In fact,
we're in the bottom 10 out of 230 libraries in the state.
Yes. They cannot increase their max levy. Referendums are not an option for libraries, which another fun fact that we all learned during this whole process. So in order to do anything, they have to come to you guys to ask for approval to be issued a bond. The total average tax bill right now for the library for a resident of Whitley County is $26. $26 of all their property taxes goes directly to the library on average. This would increase the average tax bill by about $85 a year for a $3 million bond. Now, the $3 million is a maximum bonding amount. We're hoping that it will be lower, but until we actually go out to bid, they really don't know. $3 million would be max though, but Lisa can probably speak better to that, I'm hoping.
So if you, before you get started, your last comment, did you say the taxes now, you get $26 on average, and you want to take it to 85?
No, it would be 111. It would be an increase.
You'd want to
of
increase it $85
per year, yes,
per year
yes.
on it.
Currently, the South Whitley Library, their tax impact is at 16 cents per $100 of assessed value. The preliminary ask is to increase the libraries to 9 cents per $100 of assessed value. So South Whitley's would still be a lot more than what even the library would be.
Good morning, I'm Lisa Pennington with Baker Tilly. Madeline indicated we are the municipal advisors for the library. So I'm here this morning just to briefly outline the financing plan for the library's portion of the project. The chart on page 2 of the handout I gave you just kind of lists some specific details of the financing. We anticipate a maximum borrowing amount of $3 million. As plans are drawn and more specific details of the project come about, we estimate that the borrowing will be less than $3 million, but we want to set a maximum high enough to allow the library enough room to complete the project as needed. The maximum term for the repayment would be 20 years at an estimated total interest of $1.861 million. The maximum payment for this financing would be $280,000 a year. And we estimate the debt service fund tax rate would be 7.42 cents. These numbers are based on assumed interest rates of 5%. That is conservatively high. Right now, we're seeing interest rates between 3.5% and 4.5%. So, but we do like to be conservative when we show projections. We're also basing this debt service fund tax rate on the 2025 net assessed value, and we don't assume any growth. So again, based on future net assessed values, this tax rate could decrease. And then if you look at the last page 3 of the presentation, we have a chart similar to what Madeline had in the presentation, listing different market values of residential properties and the annual and monthly taxpayer impact of those homes. I'll just draw your attention to about the center of the page. The average home value in the town of Churubusco is $124,800. That's a figure we obtained from the U.S. Census Bureau. We calculate that the annual tax impact of that average home value would be about $37 a year, or a little over $3 a month.
In my chart, I did use the average home value of Smith Township. So just that's why there is that variance.
Different, yes. Do you have any questions?
How recent was the Census Bureau information?
I believe that was 2024. And they're in the 5-year estimates.
I'm gonna ask you a little question.
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
You said that the bonding of the town is at max.
Mhm.
So there's no help there. And then, obviously, tax rate probably should have been raised on the library over the years. But people like to see that rather than.
Unfortunately, after they did the max levy caps, it was impossible at that point, so.
So one of the questions, Madeline, after I've talked to you is,
Yes.
even if the library does this, are they gonna have enough money for operating?
We believe so.
Because of the green initiatives that we'll be putting in with this new remodel, I know for a fact that their water bill will be lower and their gas bill will be lower because the town's been paying for that for the past year and a half. But electric costs will also be lower, and they will also be shared between the two entities, between the town and the library. So right there is a significant savings right there.
Even though we're moving into a larger building, we don't anticipate any costs going up.
Do you foresee using the area as rental space to help supplement that?
At this point in time, at least for the town's portion, we haven't really fully discussed that just because we want it to be available for those not-for-profits to be able to use. In the future, it definitely could be a possibility, but at this point in time, no, because then that means that somebody's got to take care of the rental space, and that person doesn't want to take care of that rental space. So yeah, right now, we don't have the staffing for the town to go in there and make sure it's clean and up to par. But as often as it would be rented.
With double the square footage, do you see an add to staff?
We were going to take at least a year to evaluate that. We've designed it so that we can operate the current level of staff. But we wanted to, once we got over there, evaluate that and see if that would change if we did need more staff. It's entirely possible that we will, because it is a bigger building and we'll need more eyes on things. But we were going to kind of take a wait and see approach, see what it actually looked like once we got in there.
And the town's already increased our staff. We did have to hire, for a variety of reasons, but we do have someone new that is taking care of the landscaping and lawn and just maintenance of the building. But again, we haven't been able to do much to the building because we've been waiting for them to get on, so.
Councilman Barrett, this is your area. You have anything to add or?
There's several members of Smith Township within the audience on it. I'd like to invite them to have comments also.
Yeah, what I was gonna do is, if we have any more questions as council, for Madeline and Lisa and so forth, and then I was gonna open up to people that was in favor, and then I was gonna open it up to people that wanted to talk against this bonding. So, but yeah, try to get to them, John.
So have you had a public meeting on this yet?
We've had several public meetings. As I said, this is 12 years in the making. And with the particular tax impact, no, because they don't. Yeah, this is, but we've been very clear in how much this would cost.
On our schedule, if, what we like to do is kind of control the cost too. So because under state law, we have to get fiscal body approval before the board can really even act. We generally like to come like we are today, just for informational purposes, to learn what else we need to provide. And then we have the library hold one hearing, adopt one small resolution, just setting a max that we would ask the county to set as well. And then we pause. So as much as they've talked about the project, we haven't truly started our formal process because we're just coming to you for informational purposes today rather than approval.
So if you've thought about this for 12 years, my question is, why didn't you start to increase taxes 12 years ago? A little bit?
They cannot. We don't have that ability to do that.
The library is limited by an annual growth quotient to the amount that they can increase their property tax levy. So they're not able to say, we're going to look forward to a project and gradually increase.
Okay.
And I think the difference between this library and the others in your community also is that Churubusco hasn't had any debt for quite a while. So instead of rolling debt to do repairs and keeping a tax rate neutral, their tax rate is 0 on the debt service fund tax rate. So I think that may be also what you're asking outside of the growth quotient is they used their operations fund or their alert fund to patch that roof and to do the needed repairs,
Okay.
Really waiting for a bond issue, but have conserved the debt service fund levies for, I think, since, when did that bond pay off? Years ago.
Many years.
So they haven't levied a debt service fund tax for multiple years.
What's the long-term plan for maintenance though? Because it looks like everything's very tight.
Again, that's why the library needs the town, is that the town will be the owner of the building. So long-term maintenance, it will be burdened by that.
And it's not now.
No, we are completely separate.
I toured the library
Yes.
and it was shocking.
Yes.
And I felt like I don't understand why it wasn't maintained, so I figured you didn't have money.
Well, yeah.
And that
they
concerned me
don't.
with it, that concerned me with the new facility.
Right.
Is it going to be maintained? Because the old one wasn't maintained. I can see the need. That's my concern, because you're going into an older building, it's not a new building. So your greenway may or may not pay off the way you're planning, because it is an old building. I would anticipate increasing in cost. And that's a concern, because I don't know if you have the money to cover the increase in cost, where you stated you were expecting a decrease. So there's a lot of discussion yet, I think, that needs to be done on it. It's just my opinion.
Well, like I said, the library, the town, we've already entered into an interlocal agreement, and all of that is outlined within the interlocal agreement of who's maintaining it, who's keeping the costs of it. The town sees the benefit, and I'm speaking on behalf of the town council. Town council sees the benefit of this project and what it's going to bring to the town of Churubusco and the Smith Township.
I agree with you. I mean, I go to South Whitley quite often. What a wonderful facility they have, and what it's done to that town. And it would be nice for that to happen in Churubusco. I do have concerns. We met on the phone, Madeline and I had a discussion, and I asked her how people were reacting to this. And she said quite excitedly with her 200 signed papers or recommendations. And so I had reached out to some people, and I'm not getting the same response. I don't know if we had a miscommunication. I don't know. I'm not getting the same response, but I'm not talking to people in the town. I'm talking about rural. And I found a whole different attitude at that point. So I am a little concerned there. And I too am anxious to hear what the public has to say, because I think it would be a great facility, but at what cost to the community? That's where my mind is at this point.
And I did actually reach out to the largest farming family in Smith Township and met with them on Friday. And they are concerned with the tax increase. However, they also saw the benefits that it would bring to our community. So.
I know one of the first questions I had when we talked is, why are you coming to us? And you did a very good job of answering that. But I think it would be appropriate information if you could share that with everybody that's here. Why you need our approval.
Because with state law, the library has to come to the county fiscal body.
So
in order.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
it's because it was 5 years ago that the state put in a new law that said appointed boards. So the library is appointed, not an elected board. before they issue bonds, whether that's tax rate neutral, tax rate increase, or even a refunding, has to go before a fiscal body for approval. The fiscal body is determined about where the majority of the parcels are located within a taxing unit and also who formed the library. So that's why we're coming to Whitley County Council for approval. Or
And
we
the
will be.
responsibility then that we take on is what?
So the only responsibility is approving the bond issue. You have no obligation in the form resolution that we would have. You have no obligation to repay the debt. It is truly, the library can issue debt under state law. So unlike a lot of your entities that come to you for county money, this is not county money. So you won't be obligated to pay on it, neither will the town. And you won't be, if there's a default, you're not a backup. It's truly you approve a bond issue in the maximum dollar amount that we set.
Would the ask be similar to the solid waste board having us as their fiscal body to approve their budget?
I'm not sure about a solid waste. We're not asking for your money, generally solid waste, depending
That's
on if
not,
they do
no, it's
bond
a
issues.
completely different entity.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I just work for libraries and schools.
So what happens if they do default?
Yes, I believe so.
So if you default in Indiana, there's a state intercept, similar to what you all would have. It's a different statute. So if they would default on debt service first, as you know, debt service has to be paid first. So they have to, in their levy, if they wouldn't for some reason levy the correct amount, they have to pay that first. So they would have to use operations fund, et cetera. But if they default in all bond issues for local units, the state steps in. So the state treasurer steps in, intercepts all their other dollars that they would receive, whether it's to operations, small amounts of lit, whatever it is, they would step in and receive that money and pay debt service under intercept. There, I think this one, depending on the amount, it'll be structured as a geo bond. We're really just not sure yet. If it was a lease, there'd also be a mortgage, so bondholders would also have a right to the building. But again, intercept's only been hit in Indiana twice, and both of those times intercept funded the default. But it's just one payment.
So then the state would own the property after that, correct?
No, it intercept is intercepting, the state treasurer intercepts the dollars otherwise due to the library to make a payment. And that would only be if the levy was insufficient, right? So they would step in to make that payment, take their other dollars, then the library, the next 6 months would need to make the next payment. If it was a lease financing where there was a mortgage, that's when the bondholders could potentially, if intercept didn't work, which it's always worked in Indiana, then they would have a right to the facility.
What about grants?
So we've already been very successful, the town being the, sorry, I'm here on a couple different capacities. The town's already received $750,000 in grants. We do have a Ready 1.0 grant that needs to be spoken for by the end of this year. So that was for $500,000. That's also why we're here, because again, we cannot use that money, or we don't want to use that money if the library's not moving in there, because we will 90% chance that we will be selling that building. So we don't have to pay back the rent money. And then the community foundation has been very generous to us and has given us about $250,000 between purchasing the building, and then they are paying for a construction manager for this preliminary, or for this construction process. So, but I am also looking at other grants. But again, it's a total cost is going to be about $4 million, and finding $4 million in grants is nearly impossible. And I'm speaking on because I write a lot of grants, and it's about impossible to find $4 million, especially in the time frame that we have.
How did you come up with that $4 million figure?
We had an architect that gave us a architect's estimate on that.
Seems high. I'm just gonna be honest, it seems high.
I wish it was high, but yeah.
We've had other people look at it also, and
Yeah.
they agree that the cost look both right. Unfortunately, construction costs are one of those that are high right now.
And with this being a public project, it's got to go through all the public bidding laws and then just that increases the cost even more.
So this is a $4 million, possibly $4 million project. You have $500,000 grant setting out there that would help you.
That's going towards the roof and the parking lot at this point.
And then $3 million bond. Correct?
Yes, but that also does not take into account the 500,000 we've already spent on the building itself, between the purchase cost and then the various costs that the town incurs purchasing the building and maintaining the building.
Did you have help purchasing the building or the town just bought it?
The town paid, we put up $250,000 from our bond, and then Community Foundation gave us $200,000. Which again, we were hoping to use that money to put back into the building, but it was not very willing, to say the least.
Mr. Chairman, we've had a lady standing in the back we should just sign for, settle a lot of time.
Okay,
I'm Lisa Fensler. I represent the Churubusco Chamber, Churubusco Main Street, Churubusco, and Churubusco Rotary. And I'm also a business owner in the town. So what I want to share is that I think this being in the center of town is something that's needed. I think some of the community, as a human being, as an individual, when I see a project, and I've heard about this 4 years ago, and then I see nothing, speaking as an individual, there becomes frustration. Because until you're actively at these meetings and you're getting involved, you don't understand. You can't just go, okay, I'm going to do this. It goes through planning. It goes through processing. The public doesn't always understand that. So they see a project that's just been stalled and they don't understand all the red tape and all the different pieces that have to come together to then put forward a building that I see as a community member, as a taxpayer, ratepayer. I see a building that could future save a child's life because there's a safe space that they can go to, that they're not going to be judged walking into somewhere that somebody may hear something that they don't want them to hear. They can get help. Our library, I know, owning a dance studio in the town, owning a restaurant in the town, there's a lot of kids that go there because they've got nowhere else to go. They can't get home. Home is 10 miles away. They're stuck in the community with no space to be. Churubusco is still fairly safe, but we all know there's predators everywhere. There's a lot of unsafe spaces to go. So I believe in my heart of hearts and everything that I personally pour into the community, once our community sees movement and action, we will be able to do fundraisers. We may get private investors that will throw money at the project because they finally see something happening in little old Churubusco. And so it's a building that is sitting vacant. People are frustrated because they don't take the time to get educated to know the process. I think we all need to do better in uniting people. Everybody can help on any level. And so I'm standing here with multiple hats on. I tend to do that, but in layman's terms, I believe in the project. I think that a lot of good could come from the project. I think the community would appreciate hearing your support in the project and making Churubusco count, where we are the smallest in Whitley County. And from things that have happened by no fault of anybody in this room, we're locked in, and they've explained it very well on why we're in the situation we're in. So it's time to just move forward, unite, and see some action, and you will see your community rally, even in a time that every penny counts. I think the benefits will outweigh the cost.
since we'll just continue on, anyone that wants to speak in favor of this funding the project, feel free to. We would ask you that you state your name and your address, if you would.
Sure. My name is Rebecca Mates. I'm the Churubusco board president. My address is 935 Wheatfield Lane, Churubusco. I am a huge believer in what libraries do for the communities.
as someone who grew up that did not have much, the library was a place that my family could go, and it was safe, and there were people there that cared about us. And I know that happens in our community, but the space that we currently have cannot meet the needs of those in our community. I'm super excited about the connection that we have with the Suicide Task Force, having 2 daughters at Churubusco High School. In recent years, we have lost too many children to the epidemic that suicide is, and we need to do something to combat that. And I think this combination is a wonderful way for us to be able to put that together. The situation that we have right now is unique. That's the word that we have been given multiple times. In combining these 2 separate entities, libraries operating under their own set of rules versus towns and other organizations having a separate set of rules. There's been a lot of learning that has happened, a lot of questions. We are more than willing to seek out and find additional dollars, but we really need your approval to be able to even do those things. So our hands are tied. I wish we could go back, 50 years and talk to the board. They felt, the Churubusco board at the time felt they were being fiscally responsible for our community by locking in the lower rate, not seeing the future impact that it would have on our community. I wish we could have raised our money to do more over more years, but the reality is this is where we are now. And I think it's time for us to do something good for our community, to help grow our community, to support people in our community. That library, if you get a chance to go during the day, always has people in there on computers. There are kids that go after school programs. My own children, when I couldn't get to the school fast enough after one of their after school activities, would go to the library because I knew that was a safe place for them. And they were always welcome there. So, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Barbara Montiel, and I am on the Churubusco Library Board also. I live at 771 North Turtle Run in Churubusco. We've talked about how constrained our budget is. You talked about visiting our facility, and yes, it needs maintenance, but we have such a tight budget that in order to offer really necessary programs to kids and patrons, we don't always have the money for maintenance. That's how tight our budget is. We really do need this bond. We need the room because, like Rebecca said, there are times when you go into our library, we're literally busting at the seams. Okay, we've got little pockets here and little pockets there, kids trying to do homework. We don't have enough room. I guess that's really all I have to say. It's a good library and we just need support.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Nathan Van Horn, 426 North Mulberry Street, Vice President of Churubusco Town Council, father of 5, and I can attest to my kids love going to the library. I love all the programs that they have. Just appreciate them and see the potential and what this building can do for our community and for the future of Churubusco, so I'm in favor of it.
Thank you.
My name's Nyla Duffett. I live at 322 North Line Street in Churubusco. I am also on the Churubusco Library Board, and I'm also on the Churubusco Chamber Board as well. So I have a couple hats that I wear. One of the things that was mentioned was recognizing, coming to our library and seeing that we do need maintenance on the building, as was said, that we have a roof that is leaking. And the reason why we've really kind of been patching it, we keep patching it and patching it because over these last 4 years, we've been talking about, well, we really want to move. We want to move. We need a new place. So we didn't want to spend the money to put a new roof on the library if we were going to be moving to another location. It didn't seem responsible to be able to do that. So right now we're at a crossroads, as was mentioned before. If we do not get the bond to move into the new building, we're still going to need a bond to fix the roof of the library. It's not going to be as much, but it's still going to be necessary. And again, we're just patching the necessity. The need is for a bigger space and more room. So for me, as a taxpayer, I would rather pay the money now to do the right thing and the best thing for our community in getting a different building, a bigger building, more space, than to have to pay additional taxes and still not get what the library really needs in our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? And now I'll take comments from people in opposition of the project.
My name is Kyle Johnson, and this is Austin Johnson. We represent Shady Grove Farms in Churubusco, 7580 East, 150 North. While we do feel there is benefit to have this in our town, to have this building occupied, we also, something that wasn't discussed was the great burden on the farmland that's going to come across. Our tax increase for the farmland is going to be $1.69 per acre as our increase. On top, we pay 53 cents per acre right now, and it's going to go up to $2.22 per acre for that acre of farmland that doesn't have any residents on it that are going to use our existing library. So that, you know, over the 20 years, our tax burden is going to be very, very, going to be a very large number for us to support this building. So that, you know, that's a very concerning issue for us on this at this particular time when the ag economy isn't, you know, it isn't great. It goes up and down, but we can't control the price of our commodities that we're selling. So this is just another tax burden that's going to come upon us for this particular project. So thank you.
Bob Hancock, 8090 Anderson Road. When that building first came available, I'm a member of the Sugar Grove Church of God, and I was on the building committee, and we looked at purchasing this building. I was staggered by what they said the annual maintenance on that building was. It was over $100,000 a year. Now, I really questioned that number. I don't know how they could have spent that much money on maintenance, but it was right in the information that we got. If they can't afford to put a roof on the building they're in, how are they going to fund this kind of maintenance? And I just, there's so many things. Every one of these is a good cause. I can't argue that. But the farmer is the one that's going to pay this bill. It's not the $84 a year on the average of the houses in Smith Township. It's the farmland that's going to pay this bill. And you, in my eyes, you'd ought to up that. If you up that to pay the bill, the people that's going to use that library, they wouldn't be nobody for it. There was something said about the number of people that used that library last year. That comes to $3 million. That comes down to $69,000 per person that used it. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Peg Atten, Whitley County Treasurer, 2440 North Indiana Street. I live in Smith Township. I just want to say that I want to give you guys the information right now. Smith Township and Churubusco are tied right now with Columbia City tax sale properties, so people are struggling in the area. Also, I do know the Smith Township trustee was not aware of this, so the transparency, I don't think has been there for the people in Smith Township like it has been presented. So, thank you.
And I agree with that because I heard about this at 10 o'clock yesterday morning. And if this has been in works for 12 years, the lack of planning is amazing to me. I mean, they think, I've heard $3 million, then I've heard $4 million. And the amount, what they say they want to change, I don't see it. It's just astronomical. And to give somebody a $3 million check and say, have at it, don't look good to me.
Anyone else? Okay,
At one time, Union Township was in contract with the library. Is that still in effect?
That's not still in effect. They chose to use their budget towards other things.
They're with Peabody now?
I don't believe they're with anybody now.
your thoughts? So what's the time frame on this?
The ready grant expires.
They wanted that money used by July.
But you have to claim it.
I have to claim it by December.
The timeline, because the library doesn't have a debt service fund tax rate to maintain or neutralize, the library doesn't have, a true deadline except for the escalation in construction costs. However, the project is dependent upon the ready grant, which we would have to have approval to move forward by November in order to receive that ready grant, unless I'm misspeaking, Alan.
No.
Because it's December, so we'd have to know in November. And what we had anticipated was having the library board consider this at their September 9th meeting and coming back to the council at October 8th. But of course, the goal in coming here was to learn what else we would need to bring back or what other information you would need from either the library or the town. And again, the numbers that have been presented are truly for the library's borrowing. The town's portion has not truly been presented. I mean, Madeline referenced the 4 million, but what the approval would be for the maximum of the 3 million.
So that meeting that you'll be having, that will go to the public hearing.
The hearing here,
No, the meeting that you all are going to have.
No,
will be
that-
Public hearing.
that will be opened. It won't have a true public hearing. I mean, they will have a public hearing in their normal board session, but the two public hearings on an appropriation would be in October after your approval, because we paused. But yes, they will have a meeting September 9th to hear from the public, but not a formal, like where they would adopt a resolution after the hearing.
You say we do have public hearings in October
Yeah.
or after
Well,
county council.
so the county council would have to have a public hearing on October, and we had anticipated October 8th. And then we had anticipated going back to the board for a formal, I mean, we'll always have the informal hearings to get community input, but a formal hearing required under state law, and that one would have been October 14th.
How much are you charging people if they live, like say you're in an area over there where you're gonna get a lot of Huntertown people, because I know Huntertown pretty well and their library is not very big either. So I'm assuming you're gonna get some overflow from maybe that direction coming to you. What are you charging people? Do you have a library card or?
$35 membership fee for out of district. So those Huntertown folks.
That's every year,
That's every
if
year.
they want to, okay.
Is the fee for out-of-town residents for Peabody $89?
87, I believe.
87?
Yeah.
I don't know, it seems to me like that's a low number. I mean,
35?
Yeah.
The board does have plans to increase that to 45 with the new library, we'll be able to offer more, and so the membership would be worth more.
Just speaking on behalf, I mean, I used to live in Columbia City, so I visited Peabody when I lived in Columbia City, and there's a lot more to offer at Peabody than there is at Churubusco. You get more for that $89. For those people that are out of, or $87, whatever it is. Which is exactly why they want to build a new library, so bring more to the town, to the patrons in the town of Churubusco.
I got one other comment I'd like to make. There's been a tax referendum to save the school, and that's about up, and the school is broke. Now, we're gonna get hit with another referendum to give them more money. Sure as I'm sitting here. So you take this on top of that, it's more important to save that school than it is to upgrade this library, in my opinion. If that school closes, the town of Churubusco is gonna die.
Time frame puts a lot of pressure on this board. Because you're looking for a couple of months here and have these facts all come to us in the last week or so. Put pressure on this board to try to act. I think Thor, when you was talking about that meeting in September, I think you were thinking that's pretty important to get a little more input from the community.
Well, I think this is a process, and I think our job, I really feel our job here today is to advance the process and let them figure out as a community in Smith Township what they want to do. I don't know that it should be our job to not let it go forward, but there's definitely some people that need to be listened to, and they need to have their meetings, and they need to do what the public wants. But I think that's beyond us. So I was just trying to get a comprehension on the community involvement that was going to be allowed as this goes forward, to everybody to have their say and their input, and for you all to really decide what Smith Township wants to do, because it doesn't fall back on us. With that being said, I don't think that we should be deciding the fate of whether it goes forward at this point or not. I don't think that's prudent on our behalf.
I had a similar comment. I believe that you should have an open hearing and hear what everybody has to say. I mean, there are residents around, the 200 residents that you referenced with the letters that obviously are in support. There are obviously those in opposition as well. And I think it would behoove you guys to listen.
Well, to get on Thor's comment, we're the governing body on this, so the way I look at it now, if I say yes today for you to move forward, I just okayed Smith Township and Churubusco to raise taxes, and I'm not comfortable with that. Yeah. I got word of this yesterday, and now I've sat here for half an hour, which is fine. There's way too much on the table for me to give an answer today. I'm not prepared for that yet, by any means. Not when it's my responsibility to tell you people, I'm gonna raise your taxes. I'm not gonna do that. Can't.
well, I'd like to know of all the people that signed your paper there, how much ground they own. I mean, personal ground. I mean, are they all within town people that signed that, or did you go out and?
Without going through each individual one and looking them up on, Beacon or something.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
not
just
like,
curious.
yeah.
So if we give a favorable movement, is that the final for us?
For you, yes. Well, excuse me. You, because of state law, that would be the approval to issue the bonds, but you're also required to do an appropriation hearing. Because the bonds wouldn't be issued until 2025, we would have to come back for another additional appropriation hearing, but not another approval.
They approve, they're not approving today, though. They would.
No. We
Yeah,
weren't,
we're
we
not-
weren't planning
not
for
asking
any,
for
no
approval
approval
today.
today. It was just informational. We would come back in October or whenever, after the meetings that you've all asked us to hold, we would come back after that. And that would be approval and a hearing, but we would have to come back one time after approval for another appropriation hearing.
So did you just say you're not asking for approval for the bond today?
No.
So that gives us more time to speak to the residents?
Yeah, we just wanted to come with information on it.
You know, general consensus is it's a good project for the community, no doubt about it. The fact that the budget is so tight, I question with Bob's comment on the maintenance, I had it.
As someone who's paid the bills for the past year and a half for maintenance, it's not cost $100,000.
No, but you're not using it. And when you use it and you renovate it and you start using it, then, because I talked to some business people that were thinking about buying that building. And that was one of their concerns.
Well, I can tell you
the maintenance on it.
they had hired a cleaning crew to clean the building. The employees of PNC did not do it. They had a mowing crew, which we've been taking care of. They had a snow removal company. I mean, they had various contracts that the town's been taking on.
Okay. But that, I just get the feel from this board that is a concern, and how much can the town take on, I don't know. Secondly is Shady Grove. I hear the same thing in Richland and Cleveland Township with their library, and they're very fortunate that they got a large gift from a prominent citizen down there that really, really helped that library. But I'm still hearing from the landowners every year, budget time, how much are taxes, how much money they pay the library compared to the average citizen. And they do, you know, and they complain, and I think right now South Philly's got a large balance that they don't particularly like due to the fact that they've let it accumulate and they've paid these extra taxes. And that's what you're talking about. Some fairness here with that, and that's our taxing system, and it's been that way for a long time, partly because we can collect the money that way. So I'm glad that we can move this, not have to make a formal decision today. And that.
So it would be appropriate if we do table it until our next meeting?
And they didn't come for
It's no approval, so it doesn't need to be tabled, and then we'll have to decide, you know, after talking with you and with the residents and the open meeting, if we come back in October or if it would be November. So it's not a table.
Is there a date set for that meeting,
For which meeting, sir?
your open meeting?
So we have one September 9th, and we have, that one is set. We wanted to wait to go for a final approval until October 14th after we came to you for approval. So that one I wouldn't say is set, but the September 9th, just the library board meeting is set. I think your request for a combined hearing, that was the first ask, so we have not set that up
Where is that September 9 meeting?
at the library,
At the
Churubusco
library.
Library, at
6 PM?
I think it would probably be appropriate to try to reschedule that someplace else that would better.
That's what I was saying, there'll be a number of people there, and I doubt certainly the Churubusco Library has a facility big enough to accompany it.
What's the time on the meeting again, please?
6. Did you?
Right, I just want to make sure.
You're gonna get to work out in 5 days. How can you really that's 5 days from now. How are you gonna inform everybody in Smith Township that we're having a meeting in 5 days?
So I think that's where the conversation comes back to whether they're gonna have a combined meeting. And then that'll be out there as well.
I assume I have to talk to my library board about that.
I can't hear, I'm sorry.
He was just asking about, things. They're gonna have a meeting then. For the most part,
That's our meeting is probably done with them now. We've let both sides talk and they've set a date and you don't need anything else out of us, so we can move on with our agenda. Okay.
right? And, but I think Bob's asking for them to move that meeting a little bit, get a little more time. I don't know.
In all fairness, I
That's
think.
not us, that's the library.
If it's a will of the people in Smith Township for this to go ahead, that's fine. But the thing that really irritates me is trying to blindside everybody and not know about it until they get their tax bill.
And I think these are good conversations, as Tom has mentioned, for that meeting. I would encourage you to be there. I'd encourage you to, Smith Township's not huge. And I think 2 or 3 days with the phone tree and you call on other people that are concerned and get people at this meeting. But I think those comments are going to be very useful in that meeting. I plan on being there myself because I want to gather information. So I think that's why I'm urging you to try to reschedule to someplace that would be more appropriate. Otherwise, just the structure of the meeting itself is going to be unconducive to really hearing people and being able to share information.
We'll get that figured out and.
Follow back up.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
sometimes it doesn't seem like it, but we had a really good discussion here.
Madeline,
Yes,
can you let
Thank you.
Tiffany know where that meeting's going to be held and she can release it?
Rachel can.
Yes.
Okay.
I can do
Yes,
that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just here to try to,
Maybe you might want to reach out to
move the
the.
process.
And this is made 50 years ago. I just want to set the record straight here. Both my father and my grandfather were on the town board of Churubusco. I just want to tell you, I don't have any information to share. They didn't tell me.
And I don't blame them for wanting to be responsible. But sometimes what we think is right in the moment might not be right for the future. So I appreciate that. Ask them about it.
I actually served when they made that
The
decision.
9th and the 14th.
They made that decision to
September
went up
9th.
to their knowledge. What they did not realize was
Next
the
week.
E
And then
component
October 14th.
and the world has changed.
Well, they based it off what they knew then.
They did, exactly.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Ready?
Where do you want to go next?
Wow.
That's all right, that's part of the process.
It's a nice little discussion. Thank you. This is my first couple, so thank you for.
So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Carla Gebert, and I have been in Whitley County my whole life. And we get to talk about one of my 2 favorite things in the world, and that is EMS. The other is family. We can do that offline. But I've been in EMS my entire adult life. Actually started right out of high school, went to EMT class, and from there became a paramedic and worked here as a paramedic. My husband, as many of you know, was also a paramedic here, worked 24/48. That wasn't conducive to having a family. So I had the opportunity to become the business office person and then work as a paramedic under Don for EMS here at Whitley at that time. I then got my training, my education, became an instructor, actually taught my director, this is my director, Chad Owen, over Flight and all of EMS within Parkview, taught him to be an EMT when he was working in our ER. So I like to remind him of that routinely. So we'll go to the first one where we talk about Parkview EMS. Currently, we have 41 caretakers. That's a mixture of EMTs, advanced EMTs, and paramedics. We have 19 paramedics with us right now, which is great. 65% live in Whitley County. When I had talked to a couple of you, I said that was 74. There are 2 that I still consider to be Whitley County people because they grew up in Whitley County. They were 10 years of their age, but right now they live just over the county line, one in Allen and one in Noble. So I had to take them out to make it accurate when I went back and looked at it. We have 3 ambulances that we staff 24/7, one in Columbia City, one in Churubusco, and one in South Whitley. We also have a 4th ambulance that we staff from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. That's during our busy season, busy time. If you look at a heat map here, everywhere, starting at about 1 o'clock to about 10 p.m., that's our busiest time. So that's why we have the 4th ambulance on at that time. And as I said, we run a mixture of all 3 of the certifications, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. So there are 3,053 to be exact, paramedics in the state of Indiana. Of those, slightly over 1,500 are considered active. An active paramedic in the state of Indiana has written 3 charts in a year. I'm considered an active paramedic with my pink shoes and all. And so that is your chiefs, that is your people that are up there. So of those, we probably figure, the state figured there's about 1,000 totally frontline active paramedics in the state of Indiana. We're very blessed here that we do have quite a few in Northeast Indiana, but there is still a shortage as there is in all healthcare professions. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we're doing to combat and bring more caregivers and further education within.
Yes, so my name's Chad Owen. I'm the director for Parkview Health for Flight EMS in our communications center. I just live north of town. I started at Whitley back in 1982. Like Carla said, she taught my EMT class. So just to set the record, we work with the commissioners on the contract. When the contract is up, we're here just to provide you with information on EMS. So I think what you do is think there's going to be anything horrible. So really from a EMS perspective, the EMS in the state, and nationally and in the state of Indiana, it really took a hit during the pandemic, really with all public safety, police, fire, and EMS. So we knew retrospectively going into that we really needed to grow our pipeline of individuals that wanted to serve their communities. And so we started offering EMT courses. We partnered with the high school with the EMT classes done there. We partner with Ivy Tech in Fort Wayne on paramedic programs. Also Goshen College has a paramedic program. And so one of the things that we do is, from a Parkview perspective, every employee that comes into Parkview Health has access to a $20,000 bucket of continuing education money. And so we have an Earn the Degree program set up with Ivy Tech, to where it used to be when, before we made some additional changes, if we had a coworker that was going to go, say, to be an EMT and go to Ivy Tech for their paramedic program, they would come up with the upfront money for the tuition at the beginning of the year. And, when you're in an entry-level position, that's hard to come up with that kind of money at the beginning. So we really were able to impact the continuing education of that. So now with the Earn the Degree program that we have set up with Ivy Tech, we also replicate that with the Goshen program. So if we have an EMT that's wants to pursue and go on to the paramedic program, there's zero out of pocket up front. So the bill is paid at the end of the semester. And all of that is funneled out of their tuition assistance dollars. So really the coworker has zero out of pocket expense. We remember working back in BMT, paying our way through. Well, it's not $97 a credit hour anymore. So it's, we feel like have been helpful in trying to get them the ability to move on and become advanced paramedic or advanced EMTs or get their paramedicine, or even if they want to go into other places like that. We also have a career path. So when we think about an EMT and a paramedic, there's just a level 1 career path for the EMT.
that if they do certain things, community events, certifications, trainings, they're able to get another $1 on the hour raise with that, maintaining their career path. And then the paramedics have 2 steps in their career path, so they can earn $1 and then an additional $1 on top of that if for advanced certifications and teaching and education that they have going on from there.
So as we talk about some statistics, those are always really important. You look at our runs in 2023, we did just 5,600 runs in this county. And we transported 4,278 patients. A run doesn't always generate a patient. As you know, there's patients that don't always want to go with us when we get there, or we're just there assisting them back into a chair, whatever is needed. We drove 254,000 miles. And I put that on there as a special reminder to me to say thank you to my commissioners and to you for our fuel contract, because that makes a big difference. That's a lot of fuel going in and out of those trucks when they get 7 to 8 miles per gallon. So we really do appreciate that. And that's been one way that's been able to help us fiscally.
How you calculate that by running the Warsaw from your going back and forth? I mean, how do you just divide that up, or?
Divide what?
Your mileage. I mean, as far as who's paying for your fuel, like your fuel you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So is Warsaw paying part of that fuel cost?
We're paying the fuel costs.
You're paying all that?
Mm-hmm. No, we pay all of that fuel costs. The next one breaks it down a little bit more by township. I think that's always interesting to know as we see that our ambulances are where they need to be in Columbia Township with 2 during the busiest time, 1 in Smith Township, 1 in Cleveland. The other part that's interesting to see is that Thorn Creek has always been that next township with run volume. But with Union growing both home-wise and industry-wise, they've now surpassed Thorn Creek as far as the numbers of 911 calls by township. And as they kind of go on down through there, I think it makes sense when you think about the populations in each of these areas. I don't think there's any surprise there. Number one thing that we always get asked about is response times. So we're just going to talk about this in 2 different ways here. This next one is all response times, all 911 calls, whether they're high acuity or low acuity. If it's a 911 call, they're in here. And so it used to be when I started that the national want was to be on scene under 13 minutes, 80% of the time. Some will say 90% of the time, but 13 minutes was the number. Today, because of the shortage in the deserts out throughout the nation, throughout the state and throughout the nation, there are desert areas where we don't have EMS services or they're very far apart. I can tell you that Chad and I both go to state meetings. We both are on committees at the state. They don't want to hear from us when we tell them that where we're at on our statistics for 911 and transfers. They've got patients sitting in hospitals for 2, 3, 4 days before they can get them out of there to take them to tertiary care. They don't have ambulances in the county. They don't have paramedics in the county. That is, you can talk to anyone from middle and southern Indiana. So as we look at that, so that's one of the reasons why the national average has changed there. And the other reason is because of safety, which we'll talk about in a minute. But under 5 minutes, of course, is 14%. Under 10 minutes, we're at 60%. And under 15, that puts us at 82%. Under 20 minutes, we're at 93%. Every run that is over 20 minutes, I break down, I have it on a spreadsheet. You're welcome to come and see it anytime. I have a spreadsheet as to why it took so long to get there. Was it in the middle of nowhere up in your area, Kim? Was it, or was it because most of the time it's because we had to send 2 or 3 trucks out within a 10-minute period and we didn't have a backup. We only have what we have, right? It's not like in a hospital where you could go get another bed from another floor. My trucks are coming from another area. And so, but if it's our fault, we're going to look into it. We're going to see what we can do. If it's an anomaly, like multiple runs going out, at least I've got it documented and I can look at that. If it's an area that would be considered desert because the ambulances are going to take longer to get there, it's just knowledge that we need to know so that when we get a call, we can answer that. So if you hear from a constituent and they're saying it took them forever to get there, call me. I'll go over that data with you. That's what I love to do because I think knowledge is so important to see what we're doing. And it also lets us know if we have a gap somewhere. The next one, I think is really important. These are high acuity runs. So this is looking at it a little differently. This is looking at our mean to being at the scene from the time we get the call. And for Whitley County, we're 7 minutes and 33 seconds. That's overall mean for all of our high acuity. Those are the calls that are gonna make a difference if we don't get there in time. Those are the calls that have something to do with airway, breathing, circulation. One thing that is wonderful about this county and absolutely wonderful is our first responders, our fire departments, our police officers, sheriff departments that are always there with us and helping us. And so they're there before this. I mean, all of you that know anything about fire departments, they're there because our volunteers are second to none. But this is the time that we're actually pulling up on scene with the truck. So this next one, you've got a full sheet, and you can't really see it on the slide, so we printed it off in a different form anyway. Well, what I kind of want you to think about is this, is that nurses, physicians, they've been around for hundreds of years, right? EMS has been around 50 years at the most. 1974 is when most EMS departments within Indiana started forming. Whitley County started forming in 74, it was 76 before we were formally put together with professional paid paramedics. So 48 years in this county. That's all the longer that before that it was first and the nursing home or the funeral homes, right? So to have our true ambulances has been right in the mid 70s. So the people that you think about, and I know Thor knows many of them, and I know that Tom knows many of them, I'm sure others of you do too. They were truly writing history, those that started this service here. Northeast Indiana was known, especially Whitley County EMS was known as one of the most progressive and best EMS departments in the state. We were writing history, not we, I wasn't on it at that point, but they were writing history. We didn't have best practices. There were no notes out there that told us what we needed to look at. We had a medical director, Dr. Jerome Waite, who said, I think y'all can do this. He was a visionary. And along with our director was able to look at that and see everything that we could do. So we built that service. When I came in the mid 80s, we still didn't have best practice models. We were still learning as we went. I can remember being on a run and we came in and in the ER, they gave this patient a specific medication. And I said, Dr. Wade, we need to do this in the field. He said, okay, let's train on it. We did it. We put it on our trucks. We had no idea. Today we do. We've got best practice. We've got outcome numbers from the state, from the nation, from the world that we can put together. And so EMS One, which is a national magazine for EMS, put together where we're at. What are we looking at? What are our metrics? And the one that I want to talk about, and the chat's going to talk about a couple, is from lights and sirens. If you're out and about, you know that we do not go lights and sirens probably 75% of the time. Because as a 911 call comes into our county or city, it is then transported to Parkview dispatch. They're going to say, you need an ambulance, where are you at? Another dispatcher is now sending that ambulance so we can go. And they're having a conversation and they're dialing down exactly what's going on. They're giving CPR instructions. They're giving them instructions on what to do for that patient so that they can help them until we get there. We know that once we flip on the lights and sirens, that the risk of liability of somebody getting hurt increases by 260-some%. That's a fact. There was just a paramedic and killed 2 days ago in Tennessee, an EMT very badly hurt, critically injured. They were running lights and sirens and they thought the semi was going to stop and they turned in front of them and the semi hit them and killed the paramedic on scene. And actually critically, they flew both of them, but one did end up dying. We had another one not too long ago with Tri-County in our area. It happens because of when you're running lights and sirens. We know that the best thing is to get them in the truck and get them going. I can tell you, me running lights and sirens from here to Fort Wayne is 3 minutes difference between running lights and sirens and not. We tested it. Steve tested it when he was here because they started looking at it then. So about 5 years ago, we put this into play here at Parkview, and now it is moving across the state. I know TRA just put it into effect in City of Fort Wayne. And others are looking at it because of the safety, because it really doesn't change the data, but it does change the outcome. The other thing that we've looked at from a safety standpoint is 24-hour shifts. When I started, we worked 24 on, 48 off, 24 on, 48 off. We realized that really wasn't safe. That's another reason that medics get killed out there, is because they're tired from working so many hours in a row. So all of our medics work 12 hours. They don't, if they work over it, it's an anomaly and we don't have anybody to replace them, but it's very, very rare. We do work 12-hour shifts for safety.
I think as you look down through the sheet, there's little on this that we're not looking at or have already instituted. So from a safety perspective, you know, the one thing that I would probably share about that is our medical director, Dr. Amy Sowers, and our dispatch manager, there's in the national program that we use, ProQA, that when you call 911, the dispatcher asks you all these questions. That's a national, it's a national database and questions set on that. So they pull that, and there's a spreadsheet behind the scenes that has all the information on it, and they review that every 6 months to look at what was the response that was given, what was the care, what was the response from home to the hospital. Did they go to a community hospital? Were they flown? Did they not get transported? Did they go to tertiary care? And did they go quietly, or lights and sirens on the back of that? And so we do stay on top of that, review that every 6 months. And like Carla said, about a year ago, we gave that spreadsheet to TRA because they're able to just put that in their QA system. And so they did that. We had a meeting in August for the EMS Foundation in the county, and I was able to ask the executive director in there how their experience was that, because, you know, we're in a rural setting, but in an urban setting like Fort Wayne, I can't imagine going lights and sirens and through intersections and everything. And they said that they have a metric that they follow up on timeliness of response from the community that they get. And there really was no blip on that. The one thing they wanted to see, but they're unable to measure, is kind of that secondary accident. So as they come through an intersection or are driving, are there any secondary accidents, like somebody pulling off? And they really weren't able to have that, but anecdotally, they said they really didn't see a change on that. Our clinical metrics we look at, so obviously STEMIs, which is it's an ST segment elevated heart attack that we can diagnose with an EKG from the field. We watch and make sure that if that is identified in the field, we go directly to a hospital that could do a cardiac catheterization. We don't go to a community hospital with that. So we triage those. Strokes, we triage to the community hospitals, because for the best outcome, you want to head CT first and see if you're eligible for thrombolytics, and then possibly going to the IR suite for those. Major traumas, you obviously want to transition those directly from the scene to a trauma center. So our difficulty breathing patients, you know, in the past, we would always put an endotracheal tube in their lungs. Now we have BiPAP and CPAP on scenes, we're able to use those. So just the clinical metrics and then the operational metrics as you look down on this, obviously are metrics that we have been looking at, but it's just nice to have a formal document right now that's coming out on what those models are, and really to have benchmark perspective of, are we doing the right thing for our communities?
So just talking a little bit about being out in the community, we like to get our teams out in the community so that they're seen, they're visible, they're part of the community. So I just put in here a list. I'm not going to read through all of them. You can read as well as I can. Some of them that we do, I think a couple of the big ones are the Whitley County Fair. We do have dedicated trucks for the derbies that are there. We try to have somebody there on site during the day most of the week. This year it was me most of the time. And that's what we do to make sure we've got somebody there that can do that treatment. I work with Shane Caldwell closely, make sure that we have radios back and forth. We go to multiple churches for the fall festivals. We do STEM classes, we do teaching. So very busy out in there. The next one is community education. We do CPR for our fire departments and community CPR. We have an EMT class at the high school that we are sponsoring. Kathy Shively just started this week an EMT class in Churubusco that is full, so very excited about that one. We'll be starting an advanced EMT class here in the next couple of weeks, and that is a hybrid class, so that is done online, so that we have one teacher that is streamlining it out, so all 6 of our services can sit down and do it at the same time with an instructor in the room with them to go over skills. So that will be a nice big class. It'll bring in more advanced EMTs. BLS audit and review monthly done. That is with our medical director. That gives our fire department the chance to meet with our medical director online and have discussions with her. And then we do a BLS skill day every year. We bring in Samaritan and we go through different things. The Whitley Symposium, which is a huge hit. That was started many, many years ago and that has continued through. We do that at the high school. That is a free all-day training for our EMRs, our first responders to be able to get a day full of training. This year we added the Purdue Farm Safety Course that we went and taught at. And then the Whitley County Rescue Task Force, we sent multiple people to it. We also had instructors there to teach. So busy, busy.
How successful is the high school programs?
We hire we've got 3 that we brought in this year. Last year we brought in 2. So it's been very successful.
Good job. And Kathy, I mean, I've known Kathy my whole life. She,
So have I.
still in her 70s, she does an excellent job of turning out EMT students. So it's nice that she still wants to engage in that education because she knows more than I forgot, that's for sure.
I just told her last week that I think she's the #1 teacher in the state.
Absolutely.
She does
She
a
does a
phenomenal
great
job.
And the high school does a phenomenal job with those. So these are just, from a Whitley perspective, these are just the financials on here. The thing I probably draw your attention to are just the salaries and benefits. So obviously, you know, from an EMS perspective, we've increased wages the last 2 years by 25%. And then we're waiting to hear this year if there's going to be a wage increase, which I anticipate there being one. So obviously our salaries and benefits are a big increase over there. Also our operating expenses, a truck that used to cost $180,000 now costs $250,000.
262 the last 3 I just
Yeah,
bought.
monitors are 40,000. We do have power loads and power cots for our crew members to try to save their backs. The other thing I would draw you to is the NRR. The NRR is our net realization rate. You know, back in the day, we really haven't seen in over 20 years a change in Medicare payment for ambulance traffic. So we're now collecting anywhere from 17 to 20 cents on the dollar that we bill. So everyone has taken a hit on that net realization rate. And I think that's why you're seeing the little private services going out of business because they just can't afford to stay in business on that. And then the last page is just, we have negotiated, LaGrange and Noble, their contract was up. And so we've successfully negotiated their funding, and then Huntington is an annual contract. So just wanted to be transparent with the ask for what it was in the other counties. So that's included on the back page there. Any questions that we can answer for you or any information that we can provide? Again, I know we certainly work with the commissioners and we have a good dialogue with them, but we just wanted to try to be just a
Presentation that we do for really most of our other counties to council, at least my counties to council. And so we wanted to bring it here, and if it's something that you feel is beneficial, we can make this annual or biannual to bring back. But you all know what's going on also.
How many runs did you have Monday? I know we were busy. I know we were busy.
Whitley had about 27, okay, 27, 28 runs.
I would-
They were busy.
Oh, yeah.
They were high acuity because I kept hearing the sirens going out.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, yeah, they were busy.
Every time I turn around, we got towed.
And they were in South Whitley and in Larwell, and I mean, they weren't in town, they were out in the outskirts for the most part.
Carla, to continue from our last segment, the reason that my grandfather and my father were both on the town board in the same year of 1974 was because my grandfather that year died of a massive heart attack, and my dad felt a need. He not only took over his spot on the town board, like we shared earlier, but he was instrumental in one of the original members of Whitley County EMS in the Churubusco area, and started that because of that incident, or he got involved because of that incident.
Was he a gold shirt?
I don't have any
The
idea.
original paramedics from Whitley County wore a gold shirt, they were called the Golden Boys at the state level.
Yes,
because they
he
wore
was
gold
original
shirts.
with Herschel and Carol Jackway, Bruce L. Smith,
He would have had a gold
Roger
shirt.
Hayford, and I mean, a bunch of people. But that was what motivated him to be.
Our predecessors did an amazing job because if you look across our system, including Whitley County, Churubusco, Columbia City, and South Whitley, there have been ambulances stationed there, and that's where they're still stationed. They knew 20, 30 years ago where the population was at. And so we haven't really changed where our stationing is across our entire system because those people knew where the mass was and how to get to places quickly. So you got to think from a Churubusco perspective. You've got 33, you have quick access to 205, it's all about accessibility and roads, as you know from your past life, but I mean, they really, we stand on their shoulders from what they built.
Well, that and from a clinical standpoint, because I look at when we go to the state or when we look at protocols every year, I see so many things put in place that were put in place by our people in the 70s and the 80s that are still in play today. And it's amazing that vision that they had to be able to take it from nothing and build that forward. It's just amazing.
Because when you think from a Whitley County perspective of thrombolytics, they did the, so back in the day, if you were having a heart attack, just like a stroke, now, if you had a clot in a segment of your brain, they'll give you a clot buster to break that blood clot up. Back in the day, they were giving that pre-hospital. Well, now we don't give those for heart attacks because we take you to the cath lab and they go in and either pull that blood clot out or stent that area. And so that practice isn't today, or I'm sure we would still be using it. Whereas the advancement of even stroke, so we go to a community hospital, you're having a stroke, it's a blood clot, we give you the clot buster, but then we take you directly to the IR suite, and just like a cardiac cath, they just go up into the brain and then pull that clot out so that you don't have a bigger stroke than you would. And we've learned from that because we used to just give the clot busting medication and you'd go to the ICU. Well, what would happen is they would re-stroke about 12 hours later. The stroke, it would get smaller from that medicine, but it would go up further up the vessel and re-occlude. So that is why now our practice is you give that if you go to the IR suite. So you can, to try to decrease death, disability, and we all know people that have strokes, but just our outcomes are so much better. And so it's nice being tied to those neurointerventionalists, cardiac physicians, trauma that really are able, back in the day, Dr. Waite was an intensivist. And so he had grand knowledge of what we should do, but we just have such a plethora of accessibility to specialists that really tell us what we need to be doing to improve the outcomes.
Great.
Any questions, anything we can answer for you? I know you got a busy agenda, but we just want to make sure we clear everything up for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for not bringing Steve in.
Rosemary disagrees. She'd like to see him. Bye.
See.
Okay, Rob.
You want to keep going or? you need a break?
Nope.
Okay, Rob Schuman, Board of Commissioners here. Request appropriations from the American Rescue Plan Act dollars. One on the agenda, second is for insurance. We as a Board of Commissioners had elected that we would like to use a portion of the lost revenue clause or opportunity in ARPA to cover some insurance costs. And Amy was able to look that up, and the exact amount we believe is to be around $830,000. So I don't know if you want to talk about those separately, and they're two separate resolutions. So please, okay. So that would be resolution number
2024-16.
Just 16?
Yes.
take what as long as I run it up first.
And I take it you're doing this to save on county general, plus that money's got to be used by the end of 24?
26, right?
Yeah, okay, I didn't know if it was.
I think I could have operated by then, but actually physically used by the end of 26.
So if we okay both these, do we still have a balance?
Well, it'll be all, the plan is all,
but I mean,
the plan is in place, but the physical money hasn't been spent yet.
Okay.
Is that accurate?
Balance will still be there. It's
Yeah.
just.
Right, but I mean-
Limit how we're gonna spend it.
So do you know what the unallocated?
Yeah, that's what I want to say. Thank
I
you.
don't know.
Okay, but there's still some there.
Yeah, I think there's a plan in place for all of it. There's some went to jail, some went to a project with Blue Lake.
Okay.
there's a number of,
I think with this insurance portion, we've done our best to try to get it down to just bare minimum. And I think once you guys potentially approve these, then I can go back and I can look at all of the expenditures plus what has been allocated, not spent, and I can have a better number for you.
okay.
You anticipate that being a very low number, very
Yes.
minimal, nickels and dimes.
Yes, yes, not much left.
This will be spent pretty quick though.
Yeah.
For 24.
Yeah.
It's already spent. We would just go back and,
Move it.
yes,
Okay.
make adjustments.
Okay.
We've spent well over that. I think we're at 900 and some thousand that we've spent year to date.
Outside of the budget. Additional.
Well, that's already in their budget is group insurance. This would just be putting it back in so it can roll into their.
And that would make county general healthier.
Correct.
The county general would obviously give us the ability to spend that on whatever came up.
Make a motion, we approve the request for the resolution number 2024-16 of the ARPA fund.
Okay, motion by John, second by Thor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, same passes.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the other resolution has to do with the community corrections project, renovation project. And Paul Woodman, Director of Community Corrections, is here to answer any questions or help me out as needed. So, you guys have been sitting there for over 2 hours now, so just some quick refreshers. I just wanted to remind you of a couple of emails that went out. One from Paula to council, and then that was on July 30th, I think. And then additionally one from Commissioner Banks about a week later in the first week of August, just with the idea of keeping you guys up to date on the status of things and how that is moving forward. So attached to Paula's email was a kind of a timeline document that gives you some background on community corrections and the intention of the project. Just to highlight a couple of things, in 2021, the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, federal funding was approved. And we were in a position where,
Sorry.
okay. In 2023, the construction of the new jail was underway and approved. And county maintenance department worked with community corrections to prepare a remodel scope for the existing facility, which you've all toured. We've all been there. We know what the building. At that time, commissioners supported moving forward with the remodel project that is included in the ARPA fund plan for the county. Council had asked for more information about the lifespan of the building. So at that time, the Community Corrections Facility Committee was formed. Members include Councilman Barrett and Brewer, Teresa Basinger from Commissioners, John LaFever, Maintenance Director Mark Sturban, and Paul Ward and Julie Jensen Kelly from Community Corrections. They worked with a company to enact a study on the current building and needs moving forward. Was it feasible to renovate, or was it too far gone? The study concluded that there is a lot of life left in the building.
It was over 20 years, wasn't it?
The,
I believe that's what the engineer said.
what they said, the life was left.
50?
Yeah, so there's, so
Between 20 and 50.
yeah. So, and honestly, I think we all can agree that a brand new facility would be everyone's top desire, but financially, it's just not, we don't believe as board of commissioners, that's currently we bought it for a new jail, that's the best option. Having hired a professional firm to conclude that there is life left in the building and it can be brought up to meet our needs. That's how we as a board of commissioners would like to move forward. We'd like to use funds from ARPA, which as we know is essentially, I'm not sure if found money is the exact right term, but
it won't impact county gen, want to be mentioned on the insurance resolution. And so it's a tremendous opportunity for us to get something we need as a community without having to raise taxes or something like that nobody really wants to do. And so in my research here to get ready to get up in front of you guys, I came across this document. I think Candy provided it to me. It was from before my time, 2020, Corrections and Facilities Needs Assessment Study, when we were looking at the possibility of a new jail, new community corrections, whatever might be needed. And it's a really positive thing that I was very happy to see. For the jail we decided to build, we are going to come in several $1 million below the low range of what they estimated it was going to cost for a facility like that. The only difference is we won't house EMA at the new jail. But their estimate at the time to build a new community corrections and probation facility would be north, the mean range. The range was below from just over $12 million to almost $14 million. So roughly $13 million is what they're saying it would cost to build that new facility. And this total renovation is going to cost somewhere north of and south between $1 million and $1.25 million, I think. Is that what you concluded?
615,000.
615,000 for both phases?
Yes.
Oh, okay, it's even less than I thought. I thought phase one they were roughly both about $500,000. That's
I
not-
think we ended up with the 615.
Would you like Paul to come up and help you?
I think so.
That's a pretty old tactic about throwing a high number out like that.
Fantastic job, Rob.
You did better than I thought. So, yeah, that's great. So, you have any other questions or?
Yeah, I do. Does anybody else? I went back out and met with Paula and she didn't have any cookies.
I'm sorry. Failure.
That's a,
But cost overrun of the project. I didn't see anything where it had any money for cost overrun of the project.
May I comment on that?
For funding.
So first of all, I want to apologize for the packet you received over the weekend. That caused any more confusion, which I think it does. I normally do. Because this is a time-sensitive project and the original quotes you got were back in 2023, we went through, the scope of the work has not changed, but you'll see there's lots of lines for different things.
Yep.
I'm not sure as far as how labor's increased, materials have increased. So and then Jim brought up a point like, what was the term used as far as the 20%?
Well, yeah, when people build new houses, usually figure it's 20% cost overrun.
So
It's being built.
So when you see the lines, I asked Mark to go through and just get some quotes because this time sensitive on the things we think would be essential. Obviously, like Jim talked yesterday, we're not going to improve the efficiency of the building, but we can improve the conditions and operations by making these renovations, which I think is a great opportunity because we're not going to be able to move forward with the new facility probably when I'm still here. But if we can leave the building in good condition when I do retire at some point, that would make me very happy. So I just wanted to apologize for the confusion as far as the lines and you getting that packet with not a cover letter. But I wanted you to have that in front of you before you got here. So
Who sent this?
I didn't put my name on the envelope finally. So this is what I told Jim yesterday, is my commitment to you is just like, you can give us a green light to move forward. What we would do is get those things completed that there wasn't a line through first, see where we're at. I would be in front of you and the commissioners monthly to let you know where we're at, how much work we completed and how much we spent and that what phase we're gonna move forward to next. But we don't have all the final numbers, do we? With the updates from the original quote. So I don't, and Jim brought a point, like we didn't even think about the parking lot. So I guess my commitment would just be that phase one, we're gonna probably work on the kitchen and flooring, the bathrooms. And then, but even that, I'll be in front of you each month to let me know how much work's been completed, but it has to be done and spent by December of 2026.
Committed, but, oh yeah.
You're still starting with what the most critical, like one,
Yes.
the kitchen and that.
Yes.
That's where you're going to start first and then move forward.
Absolutely.
that would be the majority of the cost too, wouldn't it? The
Yes.
kitchen? Yeah.
That parking lot has got to be towards the top of your list. I think it's in terrible shape.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about that. I don't know if you would give me a thought, but Yeah, we looked at that yesterday. Obviously, that's not my.
So your plan is to take the worst first, and if you run out of money before it's completed, it's done. Okay.
But also get direction from that, like, this is what we've completed. Here are the things we still have on our list. You know, we'd like to go next, forward with this next, but definitely.
Sure.
And indeed, we've currently been obviously maintaining the facility. There was some stuff in the study that when I read it yesterday afternoon again, that I was like, wait a minute, I don't see this in the project. Like, I was able to confirm with Mark that a lot of that stuff's already done in terms of mostly exterior of the building, I think. Yeah. And
Mark's crew's already taken care of it.
yeah. So
I got some more when I'm done.
I have Paula here, so.
And I talked to her on most of these. The reason the cost overrun it, if we need to put more ARPA funds, if we have them, toward this and not touch county general, then this, I think, is the time to do that. On that, I was concerned about, and I talked to Mark about this, I really don't want to see his crew do it, because that takes them away from getting behind on maintaining other buildings and faster to bring in outside contractors. That's my feeling on it. I think if you use Mark's crew, they're so busy, I think it will extend the program out way too long. If you're gonna do it, let's get it done. I don't think the only thing that got addressed on functionality of it, the kitchen and entry of clients and dispersing medical. The rest of the building is very functional, obsolete. People are all over each other all the time. I hate probably be the most dysfunctional building that we have. And I sometimes wonder from a safety standpoint, we talked about the clients get upset and because they're all over each other. But the functionality of the building gets helped in two parts, but the rest of it is still I believe, very functional obsolescence to that. And I don't see how you change that on it. So, but I also am concerned about safety. We talked about that. You showed me a couple things. As you get more people, are the employees going to be safe? I don't know. Or clients. So I think that needs to be looked at.
And we're definitely going to look at those things. Obviously, structurally, it does come with challenges with supervision. It's not drug supervision. So going to get a quote on some additional cameras and mics and stuff for the facility.
Anybody else have?
What's the ordinance number?
What's that?
17?
Resolution 2024-17.
I guess additional comments, I'm in favor of it. I would have liked to seen it some year go out with fields. That's not going to happen until we get another driveway. And I was really surprised when the structural study came back, how good a shape that building is in. So I'm in favor to put money in it for the next, 20, 50 years. I'm sure can't build anything for 615. So I'm in favor of the 615 for community direction. I don't want to hold you back on what you've accomplished or what that program's accomplished over the years. So let's get it usable, ready to go.
I appreciate that.
Is that a form of a motion?
I'll make that a form of motion of 2024-17 for the resolution ordinance.
We'll second.
Okay, we have a motion. Any other questions, comments, discussion? Okay, we have a motion by Tom, a second by John, that we approve resolution. Yeah. I do have one question. So what about additional funds? You gonna look into that?
Yeah, I'm not sure legality, if we have every dollar spoken for, we can reallocate once we submit a plan,
If the project would exceed 615. That's what you're saying, Jim?
There won't be any other money available.
Yeah, I would say if that would happen.
That would be a lot.
If it ever needs to be north of 615, I'm not sure. But either way, we've got to maintain the building. Even if we decided to build a brand new one, it wouldn't be ready for probably 2 years. So we'd have to be taking care of the building. So.
Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of this, raise your right hand. All those opposed, the same. The reason I voted no is it should have been a new building 2 or 3 years ago.
Should have been a second driveway.
So, but you got your project.
Thank you, everyone, for all your time and patience throughout the process. Appreciate it.
Most important
Thanks,
first.
Paula.
Got it. Absolutely.
Okay. You want to go ahead with Commissioner's report, Rob? Oh, no, wait, we got some more. Mr. Wagner.
Morning, I'm not here to ask for money, just give me money now. So we have two things before you. One is for the Bob Preparedness Grant. When we started the budget last year, we didn't know that we were gonna change it this year. The money was used for rescue task force, and the supply line was overspent. So there's money in that grant. We're just asking for that money to be moved to the supply line so that line item is not overspent.
Where do you have that money now?
It's in the grant. There's money in the grant. There's 37,000 approximately in that grant.
Second motion to approve the transfer.
Second.
This one's the additional, right?
Uh,
Yeah, so that's an additional.
Yeah, they're taking money from the grant itself.
So $2,000. Okay. We have a motion by Thor, a second by Nick. For approval. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, say.
Second one is immunization grant. That's being approved for yellow fever again. Yellow fever went away for a couple of years and now it's back. And we've been approved for that. There's been a lot of people ordering that. So we spent that money going to be spending that out of our regular budget. So we're going to the immunization grant to pay for the rest of that. And we have to transfer money from the contracted services over to supplies, all within the grant.
Motion to approve. Motion by Thor,
Second.
second by Kim, that we approve the $1,000 transfer. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed. Oh, don't leave.
Oh, yeah.
What's this new COVID vaccine? You know anything about that?
We've not been told a lot. However, it's been manufactured to specifically target a different, as COVID goes between people, it takes a little bit of yourself with it and goes to somebody else. So there's always a mutation of that COVID-19 virus that goes around. So the latest one, they've been telling us since summer, don't get your COVID vaccine now, wait till the fall version. The fall version is here for that. It does specifically target a couple of variations of the COVID-19. I can't tell you certain that that's what's spreading right now. They are saying those 65 and older, those with issues like diabetes and COPD and things like that, just to COPD to get the vaccine. But we have received it in limited amounts. We also have the flu vaccine in limited amounts, but yes. I can't tell you that it's currently what's being spread. We have seen large numbers of COVID in the last 3 weeks. Not that I've been notified that there's any hospitalizations, but we've seen a lot. People getting sick. Just usually it's either stomach issues or it's respiratory.
I know people have it. So. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Next, it was added, Columbus City Library appointment. So they contacted us. If I can find my letter. And I think the commissioners, oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, you're fine. Thank you for, one, adding me last minute, and two, I apologize for two weeks last minute thing. Carmen Barras is currently serving as an appointee from the commissioners to the library board. She is currently serving as the library board president. Myself, Carmen, and my administrative assistant all missed the fact that her term is up this month. And we are, so we were asking that she be reviewed for another full year term. She's been doing a great job and we want to see her.
Okay, questions?
Are there any appointments that we make to boards, committees, and et cetera, that are like this one in the library, that's not always at the first of the year? And why is this one like lost in the shuffle of being mid-year? Was it because it was a replacement at some point, or why is it that way? Because we usually do all those the first meeting of January.
I don't know why the schedules, all of my board members are at different times. This is the fourth one this year, and I had two in May, another one was in February, and so they're all, I don't know what the history is, why it's staggered, but that's just.
Well, the council has 2 appointments, and I thought we did 2 appointments the last time. When is Mark Parker up?
Next year. We checked that
Okay, so
yesterday.
I'm off the year on that. And has it been put out there so the public can apply for this?
It has not, again, because the first 2 went through really quickly. The third one was a school board appointee, and that took a few months, and so this one completely mismatched. Normally I will let you know a few months in
Well, what I'm saying is normally it's put out for the public so they can apply. And then the resumes are given to us so we can look them over and see who does the position. That's what my question is.
I think that generally is done when there's an opening, like a replacement if somebody steps away, and not necessarily every time that somebody's term's up. They generally will renew them as long as they're an active member on the board for a period of time. That would be our decision at any time to review and not reappoint someone if we didn't want them appointed. But they generally don't put that out to fill a position if it's already filled.
So my experience has been, I look to see if they can do another term. I ask the board member if they want to, and I let the appointing body know that this one's up and they would like to renew and continue with it. It's up to you guys to approve or not. And this one just got away from me.
Make a motion, we approve the request.
Motion by John, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Thor, that we approve this request. Any further discussion?
That's a 4-year term starting when?
It would be today. So it expires the 9th, so this week.
I'm gonna have to say, I don't have any knowledge of the person, so I'm not in favor. And that's why I don't have any, I have nothing. So I can't say, that's just where I'm at.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, say.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioners report.
Not a whole lot of pretty much business as usual. The jail continues to progress on schedule. We're looking at late October for a completion date. And at that time, there will be well over plans already in place in terms of moving inmates and all that. We're into it. And if you haven't been out there recently, I would encourage you to come to one of the meetings on Tuesday afternoons. And one thing I did want to mention, Councilman Whitley, you said that there ought to be a second entrance out there. And I think last summer, what we as Board of Commissioners had committed to was to have that phrase, and we did do that. I've talked to a number of folks, the sheriff, the former sheriff, members of your council, who don't agree that there needs to be a second entrance. So we did what we pledged to do, which is have the phrase at the time, and we discussed last summer in the budget hearing. I said, my opinion was, I don't think they'll sell it for any price, alone what the price is for. and you did agree at the time, you know those folks, I don't know them, so. But
You
that's
didn't
that.
give them a second, you didn't give them a chance.
Well.
You didn't give me a chance
You and your.
to go back. I was out there 3 times. You talking about Titus?
Yeah, I don't know. You and
I know.
George, Trump, I think, yeah, so our thought was that if there was gonna be an offer made, you would be the one that would do that, if you have the relationships there.
I didn't make no offer. That was your job to make the offer. My job was, you asked me to go out and get, see if I could talk them into it, and they were willing. I brought it back and walked right in there. He turned it down. Teresa turned it down. And Chad, he was, he was kind of for it, but yet he was outvoted in. I'm just saying the taxpayers paid a lot of money for that piece of property, and you're only going to utilize only part of it, half of it, because you can't do anything else with it.
I would say that, everything comes in time, yeah, and we talked about in the ARPA resolution, we'd love to have a new community corrections facility, Paul would love to have that, or staff would love to have that, but financially, 13 million versus 600,000, at the current time where we're at, bonded for a brand new jail, I think our obligation to the taxpayer to be responsible with their money precludes.
I don't think the cows was near that much.
Well, that's what we don't, that's what the consultant would estimate that. That wasn't me, that's, we paid them to give us information, and that's what they gave us, so.
I'm a little confused. I've sat in here and I've listened to a couple councilmen talk about putting a lot of money in the courthouse because it's old. Got a house sitting down there, we're putting some money in, but it's all right to dump $600,000 or $800,000 in this building down here that's really old. And all it's gonna do is it's just gonna be a money pit. It's gonna be another county money pit. That's what that thing's gonna be.
Well, I think the consultant agreed or stated that the building, the current facility has 20 to 50 years of life left in it, and I think you were referencing the Marshall home. I would say that's a much older building. I don't know that for a fact, but most likely it is. And if that building isn't seriously worked on, it's not going to last probably 5 years, let alone 20 to 50. So I guess that's my stance on it. So.
Okay, anything else for Rob? I got another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Division Road out near me on 5.
Okay.
Is the state putting lights in there or anything?
I haven't heard anything.
There was a culvert. No, he left Brad, there was a culvert put across on the east side of 5. And on the end of that culvert, there's electrical hookups.
I'm not aware, I'm not familiar with it, so I
Okay.
can't answer it.
If you get out that way on Division and 5, it's just 50, 60 feet east of the road. And they're just on the south side of the road. And I wondered that they put that in, I don't know, 2-3 months ago. And I drove by one day and I said, oh, what are those electrical connections doing? Why somebody hasn't got into them or whatever, I don't know, but I'd be interested to know what happened. That's a terrible intersection.
You think there ought to be a traffic light there?
No, I think we ought to chip and seal 850 so they go up the old trail and come out at the stop sign north of the school. That's what I think. I think that would take a lot of pressure off that, but I'm just curious of what that culvert is. I don't know about it. Yeah, I was gonna ask Ryan when he was in here and that, just to see. So, okay. Anything else, Rob?
That's it.
Okay. You got anything on the personnel?
Personnel committee has nothing. We won't meet today either.
Okay, any comments from the public? Okay, minutes? We don't know what you said.
August 6th.
I got August 13th.
August 13th.
13th, okay. I haven't done first Monday. So if you want to approve those, I'll bring the others next time.
Okay, so we got August 13th, we don't have August 6th, so what, need a motion on the minutes?
Make a motion to accept the minutes from August 13th.
Okay, I have a motion from Tom. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from John. Any further discussions or corrections? All those in favor of the minutes, raise your right hand. All those opposed, same. Pass.
I'll choose that some
Okay. Anything else? Meeting's adjourned. Well, excuse me, John.
I vote for the meeting adjourned.
Door, Nick?
I have nothing.
I have nothing.
And I have nothing. Good meeting, a lot of discussions. So